Hi people, welcome back to my YouTube. It is your girl Honey. Welcome back people, welcome back. And those of you who are new here, welcome to my channel. Welcome. So look, we are talking a lot about Saturn. I have started a Saturn series through the houses, but we are talking about Saturn return, Saturn transit. It's not just about the natal placement. So make sure you guys check the whole video out to be notified of exactly what to expect in your Saturn return and Saturn transit. Saturn in the 7th house. The 7th house is the house of relationships, bonds, titles, marriages, legal binding contracts. It's the house of other people. And then Saturn is your rules, regulations, restrictions, responsibilities, limitations, fears, okay? Fears. So I look at Saturn as like a parent holding your hand, you know? And sometimes people can get very comfortable with having Saturn hold your hand through life. And you know, when you move out or you do something brand new that you haven't done before, sometimes things can be quite daunting. And Saturn is there to self-limitate you. So if you apply that to the 7th house, there can be some fears around people. So in terms of you having Saturn in that 7th house and how that's going to affect you as an adult now or as a teenager, whatever you might be, you might have always heard people say things to you like, you're very unapproachable. You're not very friendly, are you? And this is the thing, it's not that you're not a friendly person or you are unapproachable. It's literally that energy changes your body language quite a bit. You know, body language is everything for people, you know? And when Saturn sits there, it just kind of makes you keep yourself to yourself, just a bit wary of who's around you. And this can also be because somebody in your life as a child, you know, could be a parent, grandparent, etc., teachers, whoever, that may have contributed to this fear of people. Whatever house Saturn's placed in, our mission in that house is to take some sort of accountability for why things may take a while to develop in that house. You know, we can call this the late bloomer, feeling very blocked or restricted in this house, and very much so we can be. But the whole purpose of Saturn being in this house is to teach us about bonds and about relationships. What I recommend is for Saturn to be in here, you guys need to be around people who are going to teach you about negotiating, about having better conversations or interactions with people. But my point is, you know, you have to learn a lot from other people. Like I've got a friend, right, who's got Saturn in his 7th house. I know him pretty well, but he's very stiff, you know? Like, it's okay to have a joke and to laugh, and it's not that he's not funny, because he's funny, but it's funny because when everyone's laughing, he might not laugh like how we're all laughing, having a joke and laughing at ourselves, because Saturn being in here takes itself very, very seriously. And I think a lot of it is about just learning from other people and how people are more expressive and light-hearted and just more relaxed. You guys have to learn from that. I like seeing Saturn in here for long-term relationships. A lot of people ask, oh, you know what, I've got Saturn in my 7th house, I'm never gonna be in a relationship, I'm never gonna be happy, and da-da-da. No, bitch, yes, you can be. So let me just be real with you. I could read 100 charts of people who have Saturn in their 7th house. And I'll probably say maybe 2, like not a lot, it's not a big percentage of people, but a very small fraction of people have actually been in long-term relationships, but like gone from one to the next. Because the rest of your chart also matters here as well, because we've got to look at your Venus, we've got to look at your 2nd house, we've got to look at your moon to see how you are really interacting with people. But Saturn being here can show a very long-term relationship, you taking relationships very, very seriously. And even if that's not the case, it could literally be that you may restrict relationships from happening. You may feel like, you know what, like, you know, I'm very used to being disappointed, or I might just choose to be on my own. But a lot of that can also be down to fear. Because remember, fear is through Saturn. So there can be a fear of being hurt, being betrayed, the relationship not going in the right direction that you might want it to be, because Saturn can also represent our long-term goals. And when you think about it, Saturn is very much a generational planet. So there could be people born in your year, around you. Their Saturn could also be placed in your 7th house. Their Saturn could also be aspecting your ascendant, your midheaven, you know, making it kind of difficult to figure out where you guys are going in this relationship, in this friendship even. Or you feeling very restricted by these people who are from your generation. So that's why I feel like when Saturn sits in here, a lot of your relationships need to be with people who are very experienced, who are very much older than you. A different Saturn generation, people, please, a different Saturn generation. But we see you kind of dating people and having some sort of arrangement set in place, because Saturn can also show where we are conducting a lot of business, and this is the house of partnerships, you know, of business relationships as well. But it shows that you take your relationships very, very seriously. And I like it for, if I wanted to go into business with someone, right? And if they have Saturn in their 7th house, I know I can trust them. Because especially after Saturn return, because they would be someone who would look at conducting business very fairly between them and somebody else. They take it very, very seriously. Therefore, they are going to be more likely to be trusted when it comes to signing contracts with these people. So you would have probably seen a lot of people say, you know, don't get married when Saturn sits here. Saturn can bring a fear of marriage, or it can bring this, okay, I've got to get married kind of vibe, you know, but you get married from quite young, but the person you get married to is a bit older than you, right? But then when it comes down to your Saturn return, that's a whole different ball game, honey, okay? A lot of people during their Saturn return do go through a lot of divorces, a lot of breakups. When you think about Saturn return, it takes about 28, 29 years for it to go all the way around your chart to get back to its natal position. So by the time you reach 29, you could have been married from 22, from 18, from 25, who knows? But what we do find, and this is also if you have Saturn transit in the 6th house, but what we do see is someone whose values or ideas of a relationship completely changes. So you see people experiencing divorces, even if it's not them who may have had their idea change, perhaps your partner may change. This is the house of other people as well, so we are seeing that your partner's idea of marriage may change. Your marriage may break down. That 7th house, that Saturn, is now forcing you to adult and look at relationships from a completely different perspective. I've seen people go through really bad breakups when Saturn sits in this house, but I've also seen people take their relationships a lot more serious to the next level, which is okay. We've been together for 5 years now. Why are we not married? Let's go and get married. Let's be a lot more serious with our sense of selves. That's the thing, it can go two separate ways when Saturn is placed in this house. I do feel like when you have Saturn in here, especially if you are a woman in a straight relationship, this is from women to women, do not become a housewife or even work part-time and earn a significant amount of money less than your husband. I've seen it in astrology multiple times where Saturn being in this house and they've been cut off from their partner, you know, and the 8th house is the house of divorce. And with Saturn transit in your 7th house, eventually it's got to go into your 8th house. The 8th house is the house of shared finances, resources. So during its transit into your 8th house, you are likely to feel very cut off from your partner, and Saturn takes about 2.5 years, you know, for it to transit each individual sign. By the time it gets to your 8th house, my concerns for you would be, you know, if you have depended financially on your partner, Saturn can definitely bring a new agreement into place, but they may not want to take care of you like they once initially was. And the 8th house shows a lot of transformation, and Saturn shows the restriction of you being able to psychologically evolve or to transform or even to let things go. And I've seen it where women have been left cold turkey, dry, no money, no spousal support, and they're having to fight for custody, all things like that. Saturn can make it very nasty when it's going through the 7th house. Now, even if you're not married and you're going through your Saturn return, like I remember a while ago, one of my friends, she was telling me that, you know, her boyfriend was in a Saturn return in his 7th house, and they were living together, but they kind of separated a little bit. They were living separately and living very separate lives. Sometimes when Saturn goes into that house, there can be a blockage or a restriction in the connection that you have with your partner. And although they stayed together, during that time, I remember it just being a very challenging time for the both of them and really not being sure of what it is that they want to do together. So there can be a lot of challenges that you can be faced with when Saturn is coming through this house, and in terms of your Saturn return and just feeling like this is just not what I want. So let's talk a little bit about transit wise. I've personally gone through this transit, so I will talk a little bit about my personal experience and what I went through. So I have Sagittarius in my 7th house. And I remember several years ago when Saturn was in my 7th house, and it was so weird. It was weird because I had already been single for like 4 years, I think. Yeah, about four or 5 years before that time. And I was like, I'm kind of ready to date, or I thought I was ready to date. But then when Saturn went into my 7th house, and it's regardless of whatever sign is there, this is just Saturn transits, okay? But I remember feeling like, oh my God, I need to date properly now. You know, I want to kind of meet someone who is going to be good to me, who's going to really value. The whole purpose of Saturn is to make you look at your relationships from a very realistic perspective. So all of the men that I had met, and they were all trash. I saw trash before I agreed to anything, because you start to read the red flag straight away. You read the red flag straight away. And Saturn can say, yeah, you know, it's not the right time for a relationship, but that's you taking accountability. That's you saying, I don't want nothing unless it's right for me. And it's going to be right for you based on you having to get back down to the nitty-gritty of who you are. Because Saturn opposing your ascendant is supposed to really kind of make you get back down grounded to who you are and what your needs are. And that's why you're looking out at life now as, okay, I need a partner who relates to this Saturn energy, who's going to be very reliable, who's going to be a little bit older, very mature, and who has a lot of goals and aspirations in their life. And I remember meeting people and thinking, oh, you're trash, you ain't ish, you're trash. Like, I remember just being like, yeah, this is not for me. And then as Saturn was just leaving my 7th house, that's when I met my partner, who very much embodies, you know, the Saturn qualities of being, he's a bit older than me, he's a city boy, he works in the city, he does very well, he's very stern, very serious. And also the relationship has been quite long, it's lasted quite a long time. So sometimes when it comes to Saturn, it's about you being really self-aware of what you're putting out there, what you want to have, what goals you want to achieve. And if your partner or the person who you're getting to know is also about the same thing, they're coming in as the Saturn person, your Saturn person. I recommend if you do meet someone during that transit, look to see if you guys have Saturn aspects. You know, is there Saturn trining your Venus? Is there a Saturn squaring your moon? Like, Saturn aspects will probably come into synastry when it comes to the person you meet during a Saturn transit. You just become a lot more serious about who you want in your space, who you want to be around. And I remember that transit, I started to become closer friends with the women in my life who were older, who were already married, who were already in long-term relationships, because I knew what I wanted. My goal with Saturn transiting through my 7th house was to have that. So that's where I started to set my goals. I started to write down lots of affirmations, laws of attraction. The things that I wanted to manifest was during that transit, and I manifested my boyfriend during that transit. And it was crazy to me because, and these women would give me crazy advice, like really good advice about how to date properly. I would ask them about, you know, is this a red flag? What do you think about this? And, you know, what do you think about that? And I got some really good advice from experienced women, from women who were already married, who were in long-term relationships, because the advice I get from my single friends is completely different to my married friends, my long-term relationship friends, and they would be the ones to say, no, you know, give it a go and see how you feel about this, or propose this to him, or do this or do that. They would literally make me a lot less cutthroat and ruthless when it comes to the people I am associating myself with, because Saturn in the 7th house, it makes you cutthroat. It makes you have no time for people. You don't give a damn about meeting people or dating people or building relationships with people. You don't always care. So they taught me how to. And that's what this transit is all about, people. All right? So people, that is my video on Saturn in the 7th house. I hope you guys have thoroughly enjoyed it. Make sure you guys like, share, subscribe, comment, and I'll see you guys next week. Take care. Bye.